hello, hello. How you doing? How you doing? How your mama doing? Today is Monday, the 19th question mark. Yeah, 19th. Um, and today is another episode of Happily Healed with Tenille. It is May, so it is counting towards my uh podcast every day in May for Lupus Awareness Month because it is our month. Oh, let me make sure that I have it on Instagram here. Okay, so like I was saying, May every day, podcast a day for May for Lupus Awareness Month. And welcome, welcome, welcome. If you do not know me, my name is Tenille, and I help women who've been diagnosed with lupus go from confused and discouraged to healed, hopeful, and in control of the medical narrative. And today, we're going to talk about money. I am very excited about it. First of all, before I get into the money thing, two things. Could you holler at a player if you are seeing me on Instagram, Facebook, or where am I? YouTube. Thank you. Drop a comment. L for live if you are watching on live, and if you happen to be watching the recording, or for recording, because I love that you stopped and took time out of your day to watch me on a recording. Hey, IG, thank you so much. Happy Monday, girl. I appreciate the comments. Live from Facebook. Hello. Okay, thank you so much for letting me know. Just want to make sure that everyone can see me because this is a, moderately delicate topic that I've never felt that I could talk about by myself. So we're going to have our guests explain all of the things about all of the things. But first of all, I want to be excited for a minute because can you believe it? What? Who in the world thought that I was going to be on episode 100 of this podcast? Whoever thought I was going to have a podcast, period? Who? Because it wasn't me. It sure wasn't me. Let me tell you how my community 100% put me on their shoulders, on their backs, to make it so I could get myself together on this podcasting situation. Oh, I see our guest is on Instagram. Tony, I sent you the link. I need you to join the link that I sent you so that you can be on my StreamYard. Our guest is also doing his own podcast. We do things a little bit different around here, so I understand that things could be mildly confusing. Because back in the day, when we both started podcasting, we would just invite somebody on our Instagram, and that was how it went. I sent it to you on your inbox on Instagram. I sent it to your text message. I sent it to your Facebook. I sent it on your Telegram. So you have the link wherever you go. You cannot miss the link. It's there. StreamYard link to join. So I'm going to just talk about my money situations that I've been through that made me realize that money and illness is huge. You know what I learned yesterday? I learned that you're 10 times more likely to die from poverty than from murder. Isn't that crazy? And people get put into that poverty situation because they can't afford things like healthcare. Healthcare is something that you take for granted until you need it. No one is out here looking for illness. No one is out here looking to, ask for sickness. So when it happens that you get diagnosed with something that takes a lot to care for, it's crazy when you cannot afford it because you did not ask for it. It's nothing that anyone wants. Okay. Hello. Thank you so much for everybody chiming in. See, 100 episodes. Y'all got the hang of this. Y'all know what you're doing. I appreciate you. But that fact was crazy to me. I was like, what? Because when you think about an unfortunate, untimely death, you're thinking like, you know, murder or, something happened to you or you die of old age, but it's the literal poverty that's 10 times more likely to kill you because you can't get the things that you need. Yes, so true. Poverty impacts is far reaching. It is, but people don't think about it. People do not think about it. Okay, so our guest has made his way onto the scene. So I'm gonna invite him. So our guest is someone I've known from a different mastermind community who he impresses me all of the time. He's so well spoken, and you will see why we call him the voice, because this man's voice, he could read audiobooks for a living and be just fine, okay? And he is also the voice of reason. He is also a prophetic type of he will just out of nowhere be thinking these deep thoughts and bring you into the world when you're like, wow, like, is that what was happening? I had no idea. So I'm so excited for him. He's been in this field for a very long time and he knows money. His podcast you can listen to over and over and get something new from every time. So help me introduce my guest, Tony Smith.
Hello, Mr. Neil.
Hi. Hi. Thank you so much for being here, Tony.
Thank you for the invite.
I don't know what you want us to call you because we call you the voice, and everybody I know calls me Smiles, but we call you the voice. People call you Tony. Do you want to be Anthony to be more professional? Like, how do you
Tony
want
is fine. Tony's quite fine.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so Tony, um, for the people who don't know you on this podcast today, please let them know who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Okay. My name is Tony Smith. I'm in Washington, D.C., native Washingtonian. I am currently doing a podcast called Dollars and Cents every Wednesday at 5:30 in the evening Eastern Standard Time on Instagram and on Facebook. Primary mission of my Dollars and Cents podcast is to assist persons responsible for household income to grow from frustrating, bumbling budgeters to successful financial practitioners so that they gain clarity with regard to their financial obstacles, grow their finances and their business affairs.
Woo! Sounds fancy. Sounds intricate. So, how did you get into this money thing? Like what brought you here that you're teaching other people how to do this money situation?
Well, it's interesting, and I was reflecting on it when you invited me because it struck me like a lightning bolt that having been married for almost 40 years, my wife was also a person who was living with chronic illness for the entire time of our marriage.
Wow.
And 10 years ago, she passed away. She was the CEO of our financial empire, if you will, which for all intents and purposes was a successful budget. But I say this because what resonated was what transpired many years ago in our marriage due to her illness. And it brought me back to the early 1990s when her health condition was so bad that we had to seek services of multiple medical specialists. And as a result of that, medical bills escalated to the point where they were exceeding our monthly expenditures. And we had to determine what it was that we could do.
Yeah.
At that time, since there were no special considerations given for medical debt, we had to resign ourselves to the fact that we had no recourse but to seek consultation of an attorney and a attorney specializing in bankruptcies informed us that our best solution was to pursue bankruptcy. And so as a result of that, we did, and we were able to successfully secure bankruptcy relief. That, however, okay.
I have a question about that. So that was the bankruptcy was because of the medical debt.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And at that time, there was no relief of any kind for medical debt. And even though we secured bankruptcy relief, it did not remove our responsibilities to pay the financial debt. So we did.
Wait. So you filed bankruptcy and then
Yes.
you still had to go back and pay those bills anyways?
Yes.
I thought the whole point of bankruptcy was to get those bills wiped. What?
At that time, there was no federal entity that was addressing consumer protection. As a result, the regulations indicated that there were certain bills that could be addressed in bankruptcy court. We're talking credit cards, we're talking outstanding debt, maybe to some other institutions, but it did not include medical.
Wow. Okay. So that was in the 90s. And I
Yes.
think that they just started including it now. Like it's just been recent that they're including it, right? Like it wasn't.
Well, as of March of this year, we have what they call the Medical Debt Relief Act, or Forgiveness Act. I'm sorry, Medical Debt Forgiveness Act. This is a new act that was actually recommended to the former administration to be adopted. And it was adopted before the former administration left the door before January 20th. And it was indicated that by way of an executive directive, the consumer would be given this forgiveness relief starting in March of this year. So we're only talking a couple of months that this thing has actually been in operation.
Wow, that's insane. Okay, so when you went through this, it was in the 90s, you said, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So what would you recommend for somebody who's going through something similar right now? Or like is there something drastically different that you would recommend now? Like do you think getting a lawyer would be the course of action, or
well, there are various measures that can be taken right now. And in light of our current political climate and the fact that we have many agencies who rendered services kind of being in a limbo situation. I mean, many of these services that help millions and millions of people find themselves in operation, but from a foxhole. So what I would suggest is simply this, that with regard to how you would go about attempting to have the medical debt removed, think in terms, number one, of first going to the 3 credit bureaus. Ask them to, in fact, have it removed in light of the fact that they, based on what is currently in place, may be in violation of the HIPAA rules. And the HIPAA rules have everything to do with making sure that your medical information is confidential.
Yeah. I know HIPAA. Okay, so first you have to go out of your way and call them or contact them and be like, so by the way, you're in violation. Otherwise, they're not probably going to look at it.
You probably want to use a little bit more tact and basically say in many ways, hey, we're willing to, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but you're not supposed to have my medical information.
Okay,
and that's
so don't
based.
manhandle them. I got it. I won't.
Okay.
I'll be nice.
And so in light of that, the medical information suggests that you are to remove this information. So then what you want to do is to maintain regular communication with the bureaus, because they're going to tell you, okay, we'll be working on it. And your responsibility is to ensure, yes, you will, because I'm going to be following up.
That's a good tip. Yes, follow up with doctors, follow up with the bureaus, follow up, always follow up. Yes, that's a great piece of advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so do that, you think, and that would be one. Do you think there's anything else that people can do right now, or you think that should be the first course of action at all times?
That's first course of action. And negotiate a time when that should be resolved. Okay. We're not talking 3 months, 6 months from now. No, I like this to be done in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Make demands nicely, like Tony does it.
And then, depending on whether or not they have or they have not, next step, go to the collection agencies which have been hounding you in past years to pay that money. Send them a copy of the HIPAA criteria, which indicates, in light of, you're not supposed to have this information. Now, it may, between the collection agency and the bureaus, come down to a situation where you may have to decide whether or not you're willing to negotiate. What is it that you're going to be negotiating for? I'm going to be negotiating to pay you a small fee to take that off. So in light of the fact that you're going to remove it, I think this would be reasonable amount of money to pay you to get that off.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Thank you so much. That
Mhm.
negotiating, people don't think about negotiating with government
Right,
offices because it sounds so scary.
right.
Um, okay, so you had said, wow, I'm gonna rewatch this and I'm gonna do this. I'm doing this because there's some
Okay.
little bills that got out of hand. There's an appointment that I missed, and it was like a $25-$30 charge, something like that. And then I didn't pay it, and it just kept building. And then I got a bill for it the other day that was like $100. I'm like, excuse me, what? And it's
Yeah.
because I moved out of state, and I don't know where they were sending that bill, but now I got it, and it's a lot. So I'm going to call them and be like, I'll pay the original fee, and you take that off because that's crazy.
If I could share something with you, Tenille,
Of course.
back in the days when there was no protection, and in order to try to help my wife not worry as much as she did, I suggested to her this. I don't know if it's legit or not, but one thing that we'll do until they're paid off following the bankruptcy, we're going to send them a bill consistently. Now, legally, if they wanted to make an issue, they could, but we sent them some months $5, we sent them $20, we sent them $25, but we sent it consistently. And the idea was that if we had to go to court, I was going to sit up in front of the judge and say, Your Honor, I acknowledge that I am not in compliance with what the medical creditors wanted, the physicians who are making zillions of dollars more than I am. But I am here to establish the fact that we have paid consistently every month until the bill was paid. And if you look at our record, which I brought here for you, you will see that we have graduated from $5, which we started out paying following our bankruptcy, to $50 now. And I would suggest that in efforts to maintain my credibility, when my situation further improves, they will get a little bit more money.
Right. No, I totally believe that. That I think it is completely legit. I don't know who suggested it to me, but when in Mount Vernon, where I used to live in New York, I lived walking distance from one of the hospitals that I had been in, and they had a bill for me. So I would just walk there and put a little bit down every month, a little bit down, even maybe twice a month if I had it to put down, just because I wanted them to know that I was making an effort, and it wasn't that I was not trying to pay you. It's that I'm a struggling young person who is sick. So I do think that consistency really does show them something, and they can't really come after you for what you don't have, even though I think that's what they are doing, which is terrifying. I'm like, do you want blood? Because I don't have anything to give.
Right.
So you said that budgeting is what made it so that you could conquer all of these challenges. So what do you think about the state of budgeting now? Do you think that it can be done the same way, the 90s versus now, like the budgeting can save you?
I think two things. I think there's been a number of tremendous differences since 30 plus years ago. And I say that because technology has just zoomed its way into our reality on an everyday basis. And I say that also because back in my time, I think I and my wife were able to utilize discretion and think out of the box in a manner that was going to best suit us. But now with technology, with the electronic transfers and things of that nature, you've got to make sure that whatever you think about is going to coincide with what's going to check out at the other end. So, when there were instances in the past where, let's say, if I got paid on Tuesday, I could write a bill on Sunday, put it in the mail. I can't do that anymore.
Right.
I can't do it. And then, depending on the person's circumstance, they may find that in this new age, it is more appropriate and convenient for them in their strategy to use the electronic transfers to make, different types of payments. Now, I say all that to suggest this, that when you talk about what you can do, there are a couple of other things to think in mind that I think both you and I have not even discussed yet. We're talking about what was happening to us immediately. You, and to my wife
Yeah.
and me.
Yeah.
But there's another area I think that is hidden from most people where they're not taking into consideration the medical debt of seniors that they may be responsible for.
There
Okay.
you go. Yeah.
Keep in mind those seniors who, over a period of time have been able to, maintain some measure of independence, but have now deteriorated to the point where we're looking at maybe having someone come in the home to take care of them, ideally, so they still be with family, or we may be taking measures to look outside the home to a nursing facility.
Oh,
Then
I'm
you,
living this right now.
yes,
My grandmother, the most independent, the most like she would walk miles and miles to do things on her own. Even though she had her license, she didn't like to drive. She didn't like to ask people to drive her
mhm,
places. She was in her garden working. She was, you know, working until they forced her into retirement because her memory was leaving. But now she is in no control. I was thinking the last 2 years I was living in New York, I was doing her bills and stuff. And now we have hospice that comes in that we had to get her. She had like good regular insurance, but on good regular insurance, we couldn't get her the amount of coverage that she needed to
right,
have someone come in. We don't even have full time coverage, but it
right,
costs so much
yeah,
money, and without
yeah,
the proper insurance
yeah,
and the right budgeting, and her her house is in New York in Mount Vernon, and it still has a mortgage because they, when she was older, convinced her to change up her mortgage and refinance, and gave her 30 more years on the mortgage
yeah,
that she would have already had paid off if she would have. The money thing is so important to pay attention to, and not just for the now, like Tony's saying, for forever, because
right,
it's going to be whatever debt you leave. You want to leave your kids with money, not debt,
yeah,
not not things they owe,
right,
because you made smart decisions. So
mhm,
paying attention to budgeting and listening to people like Tony about where your money should go and how you should function, especially with a chronic illness, please, it is so important.
that leads to the number three with regard to what you can do. If one and two don't work with the bureaus and the collection agencies, number three is you may need to consult with a legal specialist, a person specializing in debt collection
Mm,
or nursing home abuse. And I say nursing home abuse for this simple reason. Oftentimes, when the senior has reached a point where their needs exceed what the family can do, oftentimes the family members will, like I said, pursue attempts to try to see if a person qualifies to get into a nursing home.
mhm.
What most people are unaware of is that the nursing home has a two-pronged way of attempting to get paid. Okay.
Okay.
Number one is to utilize those insurances that the senior has. Could be it could be Medicare.
Mhm.
It could be a combination Medicare, Medicaid.
Mhm.
Medicaid usually coming into play when a person is of low income. Or it could be that in light of communicating or ongoing communication with the family member, they're suggesting that, well, if you sign these particular documents, we in fact will be able to utilize these things to do these things for your loved one who I know you love and care for. But
Mhm.
not being explained that on signing these particular documents, the family member, as a third party, is now liable for any outstanding debt that is incurred by the senior in the nursing home.
That part. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So what that means then, yeah,
Mm.
what
They
that
don't show
means,
you.
yeah, they don't tell you. And so you may need the services of legal counsel, specialized legal counsel to deal with that.
Which is more money. That's more
Yeah.
money.
And see the
So
other
I, it's stunning because
Mhm.
I'm not anymore. I was on Medicaid and Medicare since I was like 26. Had
Mhm.
all of the old people insurances because I had old people illnesses. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right.
I was in the doctors, and when I was in the rehab learning to walk again, all the people who were there had like got new hips and like,
Mhm.
surgeries, whatever. And they're like, "Why are you here? You're so young." Illness expedites that type of thing into your life, that culture into your life, that like you're worrying about all the insurance and you might have to go
Mhm.
live at a rehab. I lived
Mhm.
at a rehab to learn how to walk again.
Mhm.
This kind of stuff, if you are sick, is completely different than an able-bodied person.
Right.
You need to pay extra attention to your money, where it is
Right.
going, how you are getting it.
Right.
And it is the internet age.
Mhm.
So maybe you get you a TikTok account, get you something that you can make passive income, get in a
Mhm.
network marketing company, do something,
Mhm.
because the money that they are willing to give you, the government is willing to give you, and like God bless, it's life saving for real. It's just not enough
Right.
in order to live a life that is enjoyable, that you want to live and not survive. You need to get a handle of your money.
Right.
That's
Right.
it.
Right. And
So
then
go ahead, go ahead.
that fox always gets smaller and smaller. That's the other thing. That's when it comes to what government funding will be rendered. When they're talking about cutting back on Medicare and Medicaid, that's
Mm,
another reason why that third option may be the sole alternative for a number of families who find themselves in that predicament.
yeah. Oh, Karen said, important to have some advocates in your corner too. Hard to
Yeah.
navigate when not feeling well.
Yeah.
It is, it is dang near impossible.
Yes.
And if you don't want to wake up and move your body and eat food and do normal things you're supposed to do, can
Hmm.
you imagine what it feels like to think, oh, I also need to call this medical office about this bill. I
Right.
also need to fight these people who
Yeah.
are trying to charge me unjustly.
Yeah.
You need counsel. You need support. You need advocates in your corner. You need a Tony. You need
Yeah.
to. There's all these types of people that really are going to be to your benefit. It's not up to you to do it alone. This is why I'm bringing attention to it. And like, thank you so much for being here, Tony, for real, because I feel so like like I'm a preschooler in the world of talking money, even though I live it, even though like these are things I navigate every day. It's scary for me to talk about because I know that I don't know a lot about the money situation as it is. But
Hmm.
I'm learning a lot from you, and I'm grateful. Thank you so much. So, what is something that you would like to leave the audience with? We're rounding at about 30 minutes. I'm going to be
Okay.
mindful of everyone's time. So, what is one good point, one good fact, one good nugget you'd like to leave the audience with before we close up?
Just the last point that you brought up, those advocates, view them as your dream team. Your
Mm,
dream team being the one that is definitely serving in your best interest, the ones that are not going to forsake you until things are the way they're supposed to be. And the last thing I would leave you is the fourth alternative that you have, and I believe in many ways the most powerful,
mm.
and that is the power of prayer.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
It is extremely important, I believe, because at least in my situation, living with a person who's chronically ill, it definitely soothed those days that seemed the hardest. And it always kept us in a posture where, regardless of what's going on, we are going to rely on humor, laughter as therapy.
Hmm.
And it was something that prevailed 39 years, 10 months, 6 days.
Amazing. Oh, I love that. I love that. And I feel that. Like that made me want to cry because it's so true. When you feel like you just cannot go on, when you have people around you who are going to joke with you, who are going to like make light of the situation,
Mhm.
it's what you actually need. And people that are going to pray with you and pray
Mhm.
for you. Oh,
Mhm.
it changes things.
Oh
Prayer
yeah,
really does change things.
definitely, definitely.
Thank you so much for saying that. That is
Thank you.
that is paramount. Honestly, that's the best.
Mhm.
So let me read some comments before you go away, because this man is busy making money and talking about money. Let me scroll back. Okay. So before you got on, I was talking about poverty is you're 10 times more likely to die of poverty um than murder. So
Mhm.
they said, yes, so true. Poverty impacts is far reaching. Yay, Tony. A lot of people are excited that you're on. Crisis constrain resources like crazy. Consistent payments show that you are trying. I'm paying in quotation marks. Hey, icons from Darren. Um, and what else? Let's see. Let's go to Instagram and see. People love you. Lots of comments today. Wow.
Look, I'm the beneficiary of Smiles family. She's the one that attracts us. Okay, and I'm just along for the ride.
Oh, please. Okay, the Dollars and Cents podcast, Honcho himself. Money, 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 Tony. Let's see what else. A successful budget equals empire. I love that, Mitch. That was perfect. Wow, the Medical Forgiveness Act. Yeah, people don't know it exists, and that's what they're counting on. Check what you can get done, okay? Oh, super value. Tax, Tenille. I know. I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best, guys. I'm doing my best. That's the biggest debt I think we all have is medical debt. Probably, like I paid for school with my money that I made.
Mhm.
Medical debt has been chasing me down my whole life.
Mhm.
Tactful is always best. Tactful with honey, not vinegar. Yes, Connie, that's true. So true. I never understood why I got to pay a company that can clear my debt and wipe it away, but I got to pay them to do it. So I still am in debt. Help me understand. Girl, your guess is as good as mine. Like, what do you think, Tony?
Well, I'm thinking that there are instances when even when you do go to the credit bureau and deal with the collection agencies, you have to understand that there are certain parameters that the Forgiveness Act is going to work within, and then there are a few things that are outside of that. Let's say, for example, a person has an income that is disability, based on disability. That will not be considered necessarily a criteria for removing certain medical things because that's already been addressed by way of the ongoing income that you're giving because of your disability.
Oh,
okay.
Let me tell you how hard it is to get disability. Okay.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah. And I primarily, I'm going to qualify that just by saying that disability income would not necessarily be something that is considered if you were trying to, let's say, trying to get monies, having a moment here. You're trying to qualify, let's say, for a loan. They may not necessarily take that they will not take that into account if your primary income is based on disability income. That's not something that's going to work in your favor. You got to come up with another idea.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. A lot of people are on disability. I was on disability for a long time too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That is good to know.
Yeah.
Definitely tactful and financially skillful. Financial advice from a true master of the game. Tony, you got fans, okay? You got fans. Tony's my financial advisor. Okay. It's just a shame how the government can play these cat and mouse games. They really control your finances, and you retire and they say you can make so much money, and now they tie your hands. It's true. Disability does that. Retirement does that. It's a game that they want us to play, so we're gonna play to the best of our abilities. Okay. Thanks. Great information. Thank you, Tony. We truly appreciate you. Great job, Tenille. Terrific, valuable information. All right. Thank you so much. Wait, somebody says, is it a deadline when you go bankrupt? What does that mean? Stay Sexy Wellness. What does that mean? Is there a deadline when you go bankrupt?
Well, I know that when we filed in the early 90s, and some of the information that I still see now suggests that once you file for bankruptcy relief, there's a 7-year window for you to, actually reestablish your credit.
Okay.
But if you believe that, then it's going to take you 7 years. Okay.
Fair.
We had reestablished your credit in 7 months.
What?
Yeah.
Let's
go. Okay.
Let's go.
You asked me something and I didn't quite answer accurately. Criteria now versus 30 years ago. One thing I can tell you I have learned, and that is especially with technology. Back then, I think many of us were what I would call professional consumers. You got money coming in because you always are going to be spending it, so money's going out. in the 21st century, we have to, I think, stretch and expand our knowledge to the point now where we go and transcend beyond becoming professional consumers and think more in terms of what serves in my best interest. So that means that we have to become astute and not only being able to design and to follow through consistently to master how we budget successfully, but to see budgeting as only a first step of 3 or 4 steps where we start to save money, and we save money for emergency income, and we build on that. Then we start thinking in terms of, now that we're building monies and we have monies, how can I invest these monies to make more monies? And then once that starts working, how can we now establish wealth? That being the top step.
There you go. Those are the steps. Write them down. If you're not taking notes, start right now. Write down those steps. If you need to watch the replay, take those notes, because it's only the beginning at the budgeting. Then you're climbing the ladder. Don't make it take your 7 years if you have to. You don't have that 7 years. Who knows? You're going to be alive in 7 years. Get the debt cleared away and follow the steps that Tony has been giving us. And we will see you on the next episode of Tell us about your podcast.
Okay, the podcast again is called Dollars and Cents, where I always share with people, we attempt to make sense over nonsense. It's on every Wednesday evening, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yes, on Instagram, AM Smith 4500, and Facebook, Anthony Smith, or the Tony Smith podcast, Dollars and Cents.
Yeah. So I always catch the replay because I'm usually out on Wednesday that time. But I would recommend to definitely go back and watch his episodes. They're very, very good, very informative. Take notes. Hope you're taking notes on this. Rewatch it if you got to rewatch it. We got places to go, got money to make. So have a beautiful day. Stay happily healed. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.